Hey, thanks for joining me again. Today I want to talk about my journey as an artist and what these two images could possibly have to do with one another. My journey as an artist started, like most people's, at a young age, 8 years old. So at 8 years old, my dad was not a professional artist, but he was someone who was pretty good at art. And he did some drawing and he did some painting, and he would put murals on the walls in our home, in my bedroom, on the bedroom wall, my brother's bedroom wall. We shared a room, and he would do these Disney murals and just putting stuff in the home where it was like, oh, well, who did that? And, oh, my dad did that. It's just something that he was able to do. So when I was about 8 years old, I had a Mickey Mouse vinyl record, and it was a Christmas album, and the cover of it had like all the Disney characters sledding down a hill. And I took that record and I took a blank piece of paper and I started to draw that. And I drew the entire thing, and I left it on the floor in my parents' room. So where I found the record, I took it up, it was on the floor of my parents' room, and I started drawing it. And my mom found it, and my dad was at work that day, so he wasn't home. And my mom said, "Why did you take one of your dad's drawings and leave it on the floor in my room? You shouldn't be touching his stuff," or whatever the case may be. And I was like, "No, that's my drawing. I did that." And my mom was like, "No, you didn't draw that. Your dad drew that. Now you're lying too." So now I'm getting in trouble for lying. So at first I was touching my dad's stuff, and secondly, I'm lying about the fact that I'm saying that I did this drawing and it wasn't mine. And so I got really upset, and I wanted to prove to my mom that I did it. And I'm like crying, and you getting all emotional and whatnot. And waited for my dad to get home. And my dad got home, and my mom was like, "He said that he did this drawing, and I know that it's your drawing, and he left it on the floor in our room." My dad was like, "I didn't do that drawing." And my mom got mad at him then and was like, So eventually we figured it out that it really was my drawing. I really did do the drawing. And I think that was probably like a moment where I was like, well, this is something that I'm good at. This is something that I should try to develop. 6th, 7th grade, I started taking oil painting lessons. There wasn't much of like an art program in elementary school. In grade school, we didn't really, you had art like once a week or something, and I don't even really remember who the teacher was, but it was basically just, sit at a table and color quietly and leave everybody alone. So there wasn't much going on there, but I started taking painting lessons, as a 6th or 7th grade kid, and I got a lot of recognition for that, right? Like people were like blown away. They're like, "What, are you kidding me? You're like in 6th or 7th grade and you're able to make oil paintings." And I made a painting for my grandmother, and I made a painting for my mom, and I made a painting. So I'm making all these paintings for people, and I did that for a while, but I didn't take it seriously. So when I was about 10 years old, my aunt used to take me to Toys R Us to get a gift for my birthday. So we go to Toys R Us, and she says, "Pick something out that costs about this much." So I'm walking around, I couldn't make any choices. Do I want like a G.I. Joe action figure? Do I want a Star Wars action figure? And all the other things that I was into. I'm walking down the aisle, and I come across a red box, and it's got this dragon on it, and it's got this barbarian, and he's ready to fight the dragon, and it says Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is, but I'm like, I want that. And my aunt's like, "Well, this is like a game with like books or some sort of thing, and it says ages 16 and up or whatever, 15, and you're 8 or 9 or 10 or however old you are. So why do you want that?" And I'm like, "I want that dragon. I want to be able to draw that dragon. That's really cool." And it was a painting by Larry Elmore, and it was the cover of that red box. And years later, I actually met Larry Elmore. And I consider Larry Elmore probably like my artistic grandfather, because I was so inspired by his work that anytime I saw a Larry Elmore painting, no matter what it was, I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't have any friends that were into that, and I read all these books because they were there, but mostly I would see a Larry Elmore painting and I would buy the book. And I would go to a bookstore and I would see a painting. I'd be like, well, I'd start to recognize his work. And I would buy a book just because it had his painting on the cover. So I started to amass this collection of books and stuff in the fantasy genre because of the fact that I really, really was inspired by his paintings. So I met him years later at a convention. This is when I was, in my 30s. And, I told him that story, and he's like, oh, man, you have to have a print of that piece. So he gave me a print of the Red Dragon piece, the Ancient Red, I think it's called, that was on the cover of that book that kind of pushed me along this path of being an artist. As a young kid, I collected comic books. I was into fantasy art, painting, book illustrations. So these were all the things that inspired me, science fiction, fantasy, comic books, superheroes, that sort of thing. So I would, get a little bit of money and ride my bike to the comic book store and buy whatever was there, and I would, judge all the books by their covers for sure. I was always doing that. And how did I get any information from anyone? So I'm in high school, or before high school, and I don't know any artists. I don't know any professional artists. I don't even know what that means. I know there are people out there that are professional artists, but they're not living in my neighborhood. I'm not related to any of them. So it was really a struggle to try to find people that could be guides. So you're looking for someone who's going to guide you along the path. You know what you want to do, but you don't exactly know where to go for information. So the internet really didn't even exist when I was young. I mean, it was in its infancy. So in order to get information, we got information from books. And there were a few books that I picked up along the way that really I was able to study, and I was able to gain some information, but I was like slowly really plodding along because what I was learning in high school art classes was not really exactly what you would need to be successful as a working artist. And that was not through the fault of my art teachers. My high school art teachers were great. They were very supportive. They were great advocates for us. They were always pushing us and saying, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But I think with all that pushing, they didn't know exactly where they were pushing us. And I think that is unfortunate. They didn't know where to guide us. So the point is, now with the internet, with YouTube, with everything is at your fingertips. Like, I can meet so many artists with experience that could help guide me. And it's right there. And I don't know if I would have truly appreciated it, because when you're younger, I don't think you really appreciate things to the full extent. I think that we tend to, we don't get it. We think we know everything. And even though information is right there, we don't really want to grab it. We don't really want to absorb it. I don't know if I would have utilized the internet, but I will tell you this. I want to be one of those people that's going to guide people and help people on their journey as an artist, because I didn't have that. I didn't have access to that. I didn't have access to artists. I didn't have access to people reviewing different things or showing me processes and techniques. I would need to go and find a book that had that in it, and there wasn't really that much. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hopefully you got a little bit of an idea where I'm coming from, and now you know what these two images have to do with each other.
Thanks for watching. There's a little button that they put on the laptop or something, and then they say click it, and then you can never even miss a video.
That's if you subscribe.